The wind howled through the barren streets of Cedar Ridge, whipping icy needles of snow against the shuttered windows of a small, weathered home. Inside, the single-dad veteran, Jackson Hayes, sat hunched over a chipped wooden table, staring at the flickering light of a gas lamp. The storm had been relentless all night, burying the town in drifts and cutting off the few travelers who dared brave the frozen roads. Jackson's hands, calloused from years of service overseas, trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from the weight of exhaustion and solitude. His little boy, Tommy, just 7, slept quietly in the next room, unaware of the storm's fury. Jackson had spent the night worrying not just about surviving the storm, but about the life he could barely provide for his son. Rent was overdue, the heating oil nearly gone, and every job lead seemed to evaporate before it materialized. Life had taught Jackson to rely on no one, but sometimes, fate has a way of rewriting the rules. Before we dive deeper into this incredible story, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Echoes of Kindness if you believe in the power of kindness and second chances. It makes stories like this possible. Around midnight, a deep, guttural roar cut through the whistling winds. Jackson froze, his heart hammering. Outside, snowflakes danced violently in the headlights of approaching motorcycles. 15 figures, clad in leather and bandanas, emerged from the whiteout, their bikes almost invisible in the blizzard. At first, Jackson considered locking the doors and pretending he wasn't home, but something in their eyes, a mixture of desperation and fatigue, made him pause. They were Hell's Angels, notorious riders with a fearsome reputation, and yet, in that moment, they were just human beings, shivering and seeking refuge from nature's wrath. Jackson hesitated for only a heartbeat before stepping outside, the cold biting at his face. "You need shelter?" he asked, his voice roughened by years of shouting commands over battlefield chaos. The leader, a tall man with streaks of silver in his black hair, nodded, his lips blue from the cold. "Storm's too bad to ride," he admitted. "We'll pay. Anything." Something about the plea, stripped of bravado and threat, stirred something in Jackson, a memory of a fallen comrade in a foreign desert, calling for help he couldn't give. Without another word, he swung the door open wide. "Come in. All of you." The 15 men entered Jackson's small home, shaking off snow, the sound of boots slapping the floor echoing through the narrow hallway. Tommy woke, eyes wide with awe and a touch of fear at the unfamiliar giants invading his safe world. Jackson knelt beside him and whispered, "They're cold, son. That's all. We help those who need it." He could see the curiosity and empathy flicker in Tommy's eyes, a lesson far deeper than any bedtime story. Over the next few hours, Jackson fed the men what little he had, canned soup warmed over the small stove, slices of bread that had been reserved for him and Tommy, and coffee that burned in their throats like fire. The men spoke little, their fatigue and the storm's terror leaving them subdued. Yet, amid the silence, a bond began to form. Stories of war, of loss, of broken roads and broken hearts emerged quietly, unbidden. Jackson talked of his service overseas, of the missions that haunted him, and of Tommy, the boy who made every sacrifice worth enduring. The Hell's Angels, in return, shared fragments of their lives, of loyalty and pain that few could understand outside the Brotherhood of the road. Hours passed. The storm raged like a vengeful spirit, and Jackson realized the bikes weren't going anywhere soon. He cleared the floor of snow, moving furniture to make space for the men to rest. Tommy, young and fearless, offered blankets and pillows with a gentle smile, treating the hardened men as if they were fragile children in need of care. By dawn, the storm showed no mercy, but the house, once quiet and lonely, now vibrated with the warmth of shared humanity. As the first gray light of morning filtered through the frost-covered windows, Jackson stepped outside to assess the storm. To his astonishment, the scene that unfolded took his breath away. One by one, more motorcycles began appearing on the road. 50, 70, 90, he lost count. By the time the sun finally crested the horizon, over 100 bikes had lined the frozen street, engines idling and riders dismounting. The Hell's Angels who had sought refuge the night before waved and gestured for Jackson to come closer. Jackson's chest tightened. "What? How did this happen?" he muttered under his breath. The leader, now smiling for the first time, approached and said simply, "You gave us shelter when we had nowhere else to go. Now, it's our turn to repay that." The crowd of bikers formed a semicircle around Jackson and Tommy. They unloaded supplies, blankets, and even a small generator, gestures that went beyond repayment. They spoke in heartfelt words, expressing gratitude for a kindness they would never forget. Jackson, a man who had faced the horrors of war and the bitterness of solitude, felt tears sting his eyes. The community he had never thought possible had arrived, not in the form of neighbors or friends, but in the raw, loyal brotherhood of writers who respected honor and heart above all else. The moment wasn't just about generosity, it was about transformation. Jackson realized that his small act of kindness had rippled outward, creating an impact far beyond what he had imagined. Tommy, standing beside him with wide eyes, hugged his father and whispered, "See, Dad? Being good matters." It was a lesson etched in snow and steel, witnessed by 100 pairs of eyes that had once seemed terrifying but now reflected only respect and gratitude. Weeks later, Jackson's life had subtly but powerfully shifted. Word of the event had spread throughout the town. Donations, food, and supplies came from unexpected places. Local businesses reached out to offer jobs. Even more importantly, Jackson and Tommy had a new sense of community. The Hells Angels didn't vanish after the storm, they checked in, stopping by on rides to see how the little home fared, bringing gifts or sharing a meal. Jackson learned that acts of courage and kindness, even when extended to the most unlikely of people, can create bonds that defy expectation. One chilly evening, Jackson stood on his porch, watching Tommy play with a small, makeshift snow fort. The boy laughed, the sound slicing through the crisp air like sunlight through the storm. Jackson thought of the Hells Angels, the 100+ motorcycles, and the way a single night of giving had reshaped not just his life, but the lives of everyone involved. He whispered a quiet promise to himself, to his son, and to the world: kindness is never wasted, even in a life scarred by hardship and loneliness. Before we close, if this story touched your heart, please engage with the video, like, comment, and share so that the message of compassion and second chances can inspire more people. And just before the ending, let us take a moment to remember that every act of kindness, no matter how small, can create ripples that reach further than we can see. Sometimes even across 100 motorcycles in a snowstorm, the story of Jackson Hayes and the Hells Angels became more than a tale of survival. It became a testament to the extraordinary potential of human compassion. In a world that often feels cold and unforgiving, the warmth of one person's heart, one veteran's courage, one father's love, and one small boy's innocence proved powerful enough to melt the fiercest storm. It reminded everyone that even in the darkest blizzards of life, light and hope can arrive in the most unexpected forms. Jackson and Tommy never forgot that winter. The memory of those 15 stranded riders, and the 100+ bikers who returned, remained etched in their hearts forever. Their lives had changed not because of wealth or fame, but because of a single, courageous act, offering shelter, warmth, and humanity when it was needed most. That night, the storm outside had raged mercilessly, but inside a small, humble home, a bond had formed that would weather any storm life could throw their way.